Now last time, this is a beekeeping series, and the bees were pretty much asleep, doing their thing, sometimes popping out and doing their business. And I noticed the last couple of days in the UK it's getting a little bit warmer in the day. We're having a little bit of a good spell, so I'll take you around there and let's have a look what is going off. And if I spin you round in a minute, I just want to, it's that time of year. Obviously this is my first spring into summer, just coming out of the first winter with the bees, and it's obviously a dilemma when to increase the brood. So you've got your brood, which is normally about 10 frames in there, and then out of the 10 they compress and they get into a sort of what they call a cluster. Now those cluster of bees, obviously when they cluster tight up, they are retaining the warmth in that cluster, and it's amazing the heat they give off. It's an incredible amount of heat. A little bit windy, but it's nice and secluded where the hive is, and I've got to say they're really active. They are absolutely out there nailing and getting pollen, which I'll show you. So the dilemma is do you then start to feed them? Well, I've been putting on the apipasta, which is packets, and the one that I've got on there at the minute is nearly done, is the one with the vitamins and the bit of pollen in there to keep them just ticking over. I've got one more left, so once that one's done, I'm going to pop that one on, and then in April I might switch that up to the white apipasta, the standard one. So it's like a paste almost, and then I might then put the syrup on to give them a boost, and then that hopefully that will build them up in April for the sort of in between the middle of April to the end of April, hopefully increase. They're absolutely packing that colony in on those 10 frames, and then in which time I'll do my first hive inspection, because they're looking great at the minute, I must admit, just from looking in from the top and from the entrance and stuff. And then I can then add more frames to basically increase them so they are less likely to swarm and then start storing honey and building, you know, comb and stuff like that, being active, which they want to do. Now the interesting thing is spring bulbs have come out, as you all know. It's a great time of year, so if I flip the camera it'll be straight onto the hive and they'll see absolutely buzzing today. It's actually the first time in quite a number of weeks, a very long time actually, probably a couple of months, that I'm actually seeing 14-15 degrees C. You can see on the thermometer. Normally it's, let me get out there, flight zone. Normally it's on the 10. It's been on the 10 the last few days, but normally it's been 10 maximum, whereas today's the first time, and yesterday just slightly over. This is the first time that I would say that I've hit above 10 degrees on this thermometer for a while. So that's a sign to me that things are looking up. They think things are looking up because they are absolutely buzzing. I'm going to sit next to them in a minute and show you the pollen. But surprisingly, I thought with planting these bulbs, crocus and the autumn flowering cherry, I thought they would be absolutely all over this, because there's pollen in there. I know it's not a lot, but it's unused pollen. So it's just, I'm just interested that they're not actually hitting this pollen. If you look at it, you can see the pollen on this one is very orange. On that crocus, the pollen on this one looks lighter, a lighter yellow, or lighter orange yellow. So yes, I'm just intrigued at why they're not, a few of them aren't hitting these. I've not seen one bee on them, which is a bit weird. I seen one on one of my bees. I'm pretty sure it was a honeybee near my pond, and it wasn't on the pond or in the pond. It was on the grass in the morning, on the morning dew, having a drink. So this part's looking, you know, doing well. Some spring bulbs, some interest. You know, the dog standing all over them, following me about. The wind has been absolutely battering this winter. I've had to weigh it down. So yeah, so this little tree is about to break open bud into leaf, which is a good sign. And obviously this is a crab apple, so this will have blossom on there. So with beekeeping, like gardening, you've obviously got to look at the seasons and where people are located and things like that, and make a guide of where you are and what you're doing. So I've got some syrup there in that tub, so I could put that on, and that's like a more of a liquid syrup. But I've also got what I was telling you about is the happy pasta, and that is the complete feed, and the one that's on there now is a more of a much more like pollen. So it's like a paste, but it's got minerals in there and pollen, just to give them a boost. But they've obviously got natural resources as well. So what that feed is doing, obviously it's fed them, kept them going all over winter when there's no flow or pollen on, and now it's keeping them topped up should the weather get cold again, which it will. There'll be spells and they can jump back on that feed, but there are bees actually still on there. There you go, it's nearly done. Look, that packet, and I've got one more packet of the same stuff. So because it's minerals and pollen, I will give them that to give them a good boost. Now what I did do yesterday, it was nice and calm, and there were a lot of them was knocking about. A lot of it weren't like this busy, but there was activity in there. I actually gave them a treatment of, oh come on, for mites. Gave them a mite treatment, and they was absolutely coated in the white stuff. Apivar, is it Api? Oh god, I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, yeah, I gave them a dose of that. So they're going about their thing, doing a little dance in this corner as they do. I don't know what they do in there, but they seem to accumulate here and do like a bit of a disco, and no doubt they're telling each other where this flow is of pollen. I'm worried now about these ones stuck on here, so I don't want to get stung because I'm here without no protection, as you can imagine. But they're busy at the minute. The pollen on that little one. But then look at the activity on this. It's got lovely orangey yellow pollen, so they are bringing that in. Look at them packing it in. So obviously they are telling each other in there they found a source of pollen, and they are going out there and getting it. And to me, hopefully this is telling me that they are very happy and active. See the difference in the pollen there? You got this one is really bright orange, and then you've got a lighter yellow. So this is obviously, they're probably crocus that they are hitting. I think they're hitting the crocus, and they're bringing in the different types. There might be some autumn flowering and spring flowering cherry blossoms that they'll also hit and bring in. And then I'm just going to hold on as much as I can until a real flow is on. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've got to keep calm because I'm actually getting covered in bees, and I don't want them to sting me. They are obviously finding my hand attractive. Sorry about the focus, I don't want to move too much in case I disturb them and then I get a sting and then they die. So I think what they get off the skin is the salts, believe it or not, but like any animal, honeybees like the salts, and that's what they get out of water, and sometimes they drink out of stagnant water and stuff, so they're getting certain things out of it. So these are probably what these are doing. I probably imagine if you haven't got protection in summer, that they will land on you even more and get the sweat off your body, because it's liquid, obviously it's water droplets, isn't it? And then they obviously take off the salt that's in there. But that one, for some reason, you know, it's gone, it's took off. It gives me a chance to move now. So yeah, it's absolutely lovely to see. It's a lovely hobby. I've really enjoyed this hobby so far. I'm so pleased that I took the opportunity in winter, or last autumn, October, whenever it was, to get the hive in. And actually I was planning just to get this garden and this bit done and then try and capture a swarm, but actually I bought this swarm for £200 in autumn, and I've really enjoyed it. It's been well worth the £200. I've so much enjoyed the looking and watching them. I mean, look at it, what is there not to enjoy? Look at them all, absolutely swarming with them. And I'm literally sat here, literally that close, and I've not been stung once. So when you know, start to interact with them, there's a lot of fear. I would never have sat this close. I'd have been scared they're gonna, because you just think wasps, bees, they're all the same, they're just gonna sting you. Well, if these are active and got the minds active, they won't. If I was like in winter and it's dark and they're protecting the home, the likelihood is the guard bees would give me a jab in the forehead or try and get me in the eyelids or something like that, in the eyes. Whereas as it is, they're active. All they're bothered about is getting out there in the lovely sun, enjoying a bit of warmth, going to the toilet, getting rid of their business in their bodies, emptying their bodies, because you can see the muck on the actual hive. Can you see those streaks? That's actually defecation, their poo. And it's obviously on the outside. Look, it's actually covers it, so that'll need to wipe down soon. So if they've been cooped up for quite a long time, they will come out and obviously poo around in and go back in. But if they can get a flight, they'll do a cleansing flight, what they call a cleansing flight. They'll come out, clean themselves, fly off, empty their bodies, go and collect any resources while they're out there, get a drink and that sort of stuff, and then come back in and get to work. But they don't stop. The first opportunity they get, they just go for it. It's just amazing to watch, because what's interesting is you can actually use them, I think, if you're in tune with nature and stuff, use them to guide you a little bit what the weather's doing. It's obvious, isn't it? If they're out and they're not really active above 10 degrees, if the temperature's above 10 degrees or more, and they are seeing flow or pollen, so they're collecting pollen, and that tells you that there's a lot of flowers out there. Now soon this pollen will change, because the spring flowers will grow, and then you'll get cherry blossom. They will flower and grow, you know, and start blossoming, and then they'll go and pollinate them and get pollen off them. And then what will happen is the cherry blossom will come spring, it'll be early summer, and then there will be the crops in the fields and garden plants and stuff, but it's mainly the crops in the field that will get pollen in. And that's where then, before then, you need to expand your colony. So my colony's to there, I'm going to double it, put another 10 frames in, they will expand it, keep the queen bee will keep laying eggs here, and they'll keep feeding the eggs with pollen. But then here they will start to, because this flow on is resources, a good amount of them, they will then start building comb, and then filling the comb with honey. And then once they've got the honey, they dry it off to a certain percentage of humidity, you know, with viscosity or whatever you want to call it, and they will draw the moisture out of it by fanning it, and then they cap it. They cap it because they know they've got that moisture content down to a certain percentage. I think it's around about 17% you want. You get like it's like a hydrometer type tool, and you just put the drop of honey on it and you can test the actual content of liquid in there. So hopefully, like I say, I'm going to hold off, and then when this is packed out and they are filling all these frames really in there, packed out, and they're thinking, right, there's a risk that it looks like they are producing honey now, so let's expand. Because if you don't, what they'll do is they will quickly fill their resources, they'll store honey, there'll be no room for the queen to lay, so she won't be able to lay her eggs, and that's her instinct, to lay and produce and grow, make the colony bigger. So what'll happen is she will then abscond, if you like, and this swarm, that's when you get swarming, because the urge is to, right, I've not got no space here, I need a new home. They'll send bees out to look. The bees will then find a suitable home, tell the queen by pheromones or wherever they talk to each other, and then the queen will go around here somewhere and start to swarm. She'll pull her colony out, leaving some in to leave here for a new colony, and then she'll swarm. Now what you can do then is capture the swarm and put it in a new you know, honey box. What's it called? Beehive. New beehive. And then that's how you get splits. So it's about managing those splits. It's about getting your timing right. Because if I was to do that now, you know, you might say, well, why don't you just open them up, take the block out here, open them up into this. Well, what you don't want to do is create that too much space too early, so they become overcome, because then they haven't got enough sources to fill. You've doubled. It's almost like you having one bedroom to go into 2 bedrooms to heat, or 3 bedrooms to 6 bedrooms to heat and look after, maintain. Well, they're the same. They don't want too much, because they won't, especially going into winter, they won't be able to sustain it and keep that space warm, because their body temperatures and the box keeps it warm enough so they don't die off. So if you get it wrong, you can get it massively wrong by manipulating. Okay, so hope you've enjoyed that. I'm loving the bees. I will record my first inspection. But this hive, the hive, I love it, because look, you can just lift it up and you can see them. They're fine. You know, this would normally have, you know, a normal beehive. You'd have a top on there. You'd have to take the top off, then the excluder to have a look. You'd have to take boxes off to then get into where the actual brood is in there. Well, I can see what's going off. I can't see obviously on my frames, but that's where the real proper inspection comes in. But this just tells me that I'm in a good place. And also, I keep sweeping this off so I know if there's any mites dropping, and that I've only swept that off 10 minutes ago, and look at the pollen drop on here already. Like a dusty, it's like dusty, and there's no mites there yet. So I will have a look at this tomorrow and see what mites drop onto there. Like I say, I treated them yesterday with my what's it called it, vaporizer. The vaporizer I've got in there. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed that. The dog loves being down here with me. Summer, she loves being down here, follows me about, pondering. Great hobby. I would definitely encourage you, if you've not already, get some books, look on the internet, read about them, because it's so fascinating. Thanks for watching. Keep yourself happy, and I'll see you on the next bee one, which will be, no doubt, in here in March, end of March, April, doing my first inspection.